All right, joining us on Pirate Radio Live, not in studio, so we're sad, but Coach Mack is with us in spirit and in face and voice. Hello, Coach Mack. How you, sir?
Hello, Mr. Clip. Sorry about this. I'm on the road up here in Virginia. Did a doubleheader yesterday, and now I'm in whatever town this is, just getting to Charlottesville, Virginia, to attend a couple practices. And I have a game here tomorrow night to open the Ron Sanchez era, the first game without Tony Bennett in a long time here.
Yeah, that's going to be something. So I enjoyed watching basketball on YouTube at noon and 3 o'clock during the show yesterday. It was a lot of fun. So how about your doubleheader, Coach? Who did you see yesterday?
I had Virginia Tech women against UNCW, ironically, a local team. And then I had the men in the nightcap against Delaware State. And then I'll have Virginia again against Carolina team tomorrow night. The men play Campbell, who's going to have a good team from Bowie's Creek. So still keeping the North Carolina connections going.
Good deal. Were you able to see anything outside of your games? I mean, it's only one night, but anything stand out to you night one of college basketball?
No, and I was talking with several coaches on the ride up here this morning, and it seems like the trend is to play somebody you can just beat the daylights out of, and the turning point in the game is when you sign the contract or give them the check. And I don't know what you learn from those games. I know why you do it, but I'm not sure how valuable they are. And on the other hand, you see Central Florida, Texas A&M, or Gonzaga, Baylor, and you see some good games too. And maybe those guys have longer contracts and have made enough money they don't have to worry about it. But it seems like you learn a whole lot more from those challenging games than you do from playing, State, Tech, whatever.
Or North Carolina Wesleyan in the case of East Carolina. I'm a lot more excited about the Coastal Carolina game. It'll show us a little more about what ECU has. Pirates put up a ton of points last night, especially in the first half, and a win over Wesleyan. But again, what can you really learn from that? Good to see the new players and things like that. I was going to ask you, I think you answered it there at the end, especially with college basketball. You got so many games, so much time to win games later. Are you in favor of starting with a tough one or going ahead and getting some confidence and getting an easy win if you're making the schedule?
Well, I was absolutely guilty of taking the easy wins, and but as an announcer, I'd love to see the tougher games. But and again, like I was talking with the coaches, not only do you get a false sense of your team, but you also get a false sense of what individuals can do. There are a lot of players who can be successful in November and December who are not too good in January and February. And I think the sooner you find that out, the more you can do to overcome some of the weaknesses of your team. But again, your financial situation and your hot seat might determine what you want to do.
Talked to Mike Schwartz last week and asked him about any rule changes or anything like that. I believe he said this is and I didn't know this was the thing, but he said a non-rule change year, and then next year they'll look into some things. Is that right?
Yeah, they tend to look at that, and they'll do some they do some experimentation in like the NIT or exhibition games and things like that. I noticed some teams played quarters in some exhibition games, that kind of thing. But yeah, no rule changes, and I haven't really talked to the officials. I usually talk to the officials before I do my first game, but I don't even know what the points of emphasis are. But we'll know it pretty quickly because you'll see them in those first couple games. You'll see them called 100 times.
Mack McCarthy joining us. Got some Virginia basketball coming up on Wednesday. Is that what are you calling it for, Coach Mack? Will that be on TV?
That'll be on ACC Network Extra. Be the streaming. Of course, it'll be also on ESPN Plus. But yeah, it airs somewhere. I know people watch it because I get it in text messages.
All compliments, I'm sure, right?
Yeah, maybe.
Coach Mack joining us. Mack, talk a little football while we got you here. I was just thinking about this today that I'm fired up for the playoffs, just as I've been for the entire regular season. But I could go without Notre Dame and Penn State in my playoffs. but they're both going to be there, right?
They are, and I think this is one of the reasons why Notre Dame really pushed hard for the 12-team playoff, because they, with the way they are capable of scheduling as an independent, they've got a pretty good chance of having a good record and being in that mix every time. And Penn State and Mississippi were the two teams that everybody has talked about forever as maybe the biggest beneficiaries, teams that right below the top of the league, but but good enough to get in. And I'll tell you this though, and there are, we can talk NASCAR, we can talk whatever sport you want to talk about, but sometimes there are unintended consequences, some good and some bad. I wasn't really for expanding the playoffs. I think you get some teams, like you said, that maybe don't deserve to be there. But I will say this, and I don't know who wrote the article. I don't know if it was Hale or what, one of the national writers for ESPN, I think. Last year at this time, there were 10 or 11 teams that were still viably alive for the 14 playoff. This year, you can make a case for up to 33 teams that are still alive for either their conference championship, which could get them into the playoff, or the playoff itself. I can't think there's any downside to that. More people invested, more people excited, more games that mean something in November than ever before. So from that perspective, I guess the expansion to 12 has been a success.
Yeah, and man, these conference races are going to be a lot of fun. We've talked about the Big 12 even before the season started. I just thought it was going to be wild, and we'd see teams with multiple losses in the championship. I don't know if that's going to be the case now, and BYU has obviously been a big surprise. But last week, I came to the realization that I won't coach Prime in Colorado in the Big 12 championship. Needed some things to happen for that to have a chance, and this weekend some things happen. Iowa State loses, Kansas State loses, so the Big 12 is going to be muddied, and we'll see if BYU can keep it going down the stretch.
Yeah, big noon. The Fox show is going to be in Lubbock for the Colorado State Texas Tech game, I guess. And wouldn't that be something? Because he was all but written off. I mean, with a couple losses early, and everybody forgot about him, and here they are in a great situation. And you can be a fan or not a fan, or you can be a critic, whatever you want to be. But the fact of the matter is, he's done a great job.
Saturday night in the SEC, a game I really like just for the spot. Well, Texas A&M coming off a big win. Loved South Carolina on Saturday night, and they got up early. Great response by Elko's Aggies, and then South Carolina dominates the second half of that game. And Texas A&M, they were the last remaining undefeated SEC team in conference play, right? So now everybody's got a loss over there.
Yeah, and that game went about the way I expected it to. I don't know that I expected a blowout, but I thought South Carolina would win. I didn't know how Texas A&M would handle the big victory they had the week before, and nobody has handled those things very well. You had Alabama, but with the big win over Georgia and get beat by Vanderbilt. Nobody has backed it up after coming off a big win, and you got two huge ones this week with Alabama and LSU, which I think is basically an elimination game. Whoever loses is out of the playoff picture. And you got Mississippi and Georgia. Everybody was talking about this before the game, or before the season, and now it's kind of lost a little luster with Mississippi having some losses. But Mississippi wins this game, they're right back in the mix too. So a couple really big games. I might jump on those games a little bit for our top 25 and top 10 losers.
Yeah, I want to ask you about the lines in those. Speaking of lines, we had our first ever Mack scoffs at a line and loses it. And it's not even your fault, because there's no way Duke should have had a double-digit lead and not cover in that game. It was ridiculous. And even though I saw it coming in the fourth quarter, we were on the right side of that one, Mac, and just lost the numbers.
Yeah, I thought I had nailed that one for a long time.
Duke's winning like in the third quarter by 11, I think, right? I
That's why
mean,
they call it gambling, I reckon. But I felt pretty good about that, and I felt pretty good about it late in that game, but to no avail. I
yeah.
apologize to everybody that lost a dollar or two.
Well, you're like 15-1 on those now, so I'm going to let you slide because again, I feel like we were on the right side of it, but turns out we were not. All right, anything else from last week before we dive into a couple for this week?
Yeah, I don't remember who we picked in the top 25 and top 10, and you don't have your notes with
I
you,
don't
but
have it with me. Yeah. Oh, I
yeah,
know
but
who I picked. I picked Penn State to lose to Ohio State, and I picked A&M, or A&M might have been my top 10 pick. You know what? I'll have to look it up. I know I had South Carolina over A&M in one of them, but
yeah, I think I had A&M and Ohio State. I think I was 1-1, but I'm not positive about that either.
so this week, how about Georgia 2.5 against Ole Miss? I mean, I guess is that a fair line to you?
I guess Georgia hasn't been particularly consistent. I think
Yeah.
that's a reflection of Georgia more than it is Ole Miss, and of course Ole Miss coming off, laying 100 points against Arkansas, which I don't know anybody saw that coming necessarily either. But for my top 10 pick, I'm going to take Georgia in that situation. And that's not a reflection of how I feel about the line, but I think they're one of the only ones that actually has a chance to lose in the top 10.
How about an Indiana team now that they're going to have a bye week between Michigan and Ohio State, so maybe they avoid a look ahead spot. And would they really look ahead in a game against Michigan? They're 14-point favorites in this game. They got down 10-0 to Michigan State, Coach Mack, and then just absolutely rolled them. They continue to not play close games. I've heard people compare them to TCU the year they had a bunch of kind of out of nowhere wins, but they were winning by the skin of their teeth, almost like Miami has been doing quite a bit. But Indiana's just been rolling. Can they continue that against Blue this weekend?
Yeah, in that metric where you talk about game control, they are dominating that stat for sure. And I don't. I'm at this point. I'm not going against Indiana at all. I want Jamie to be happy.
So, Coach, there's not much drama right now, but hopefully there will be on Championship Saturday when it comes to the Group of Five team. But right now, Boise State is the clear team to go. In fact, we all kind of assumed, I guess, I know I did, that the number 12 seed in the college football playoff would go to the Group of Five team. I saw a projection that had Boise as a number 10 seed in the playoff. So, Coach, right, we'll see if Boise can keep winning. If not, and if they stub their toe in the championship, would they still go, or would somebody leapfrog them if, say, Army or Tulane or somebody like that?
Yeah, I doubt that the Group of Five gets two teams no matter what happens. But Boise State sure looks like it's got smooth sailing. But every time we've thought somebody was a lock, we've been surprised. So just stay tuned, right?
Yeah, well, I feel like we have done that quite a bit during our Tuesday chats. Boise has Nevada coming up this week. They are heavy favorites in that one. We'll go, I guess, Bama, LSU. Any lean in that one, Coach Mack?
Not really. You tend to think LSU at home night, all that kind of thing would be unbelievable. But and Alabama's been kind of unpredictable. But I think something's just missing at LSU. Nussmeier looks like the guy, but you saw it against Texas A&M where he struggled a little bit. I think Alabama can go down there and win that football game.
And here's my top 10 upset. This one's staring everybody right in the face. Utah at home against BYU.
Yeah, but Utah's just been awful. But yeah, I looked at that one and decided to go ahead with Georgia. I thought about Georgia Tech maybe beating Miami. Miami has dodged a bullet a bunch of different times, and Georgia Tech, if they get Haynes King back, would be a threat to them. But I'm going to stick with the Georgia pick and go with the LSU pick in the top 25.
All right, there you go. I'm going to go with Georgia over Ole Miss and Utah to knock off BYU.
I like your picks better than mine. I don't know why that is.
Oh, whatever. There's a reason you're winning this thing, just like you were last year. All right, Coach Mack. Before you go, we talked about it a little bit with Jared yesterday, and then I said I would ask Coach Mack about it. He did his best to explain what happened in the race on Sunday, and at, from what I gather, cars were looking out for their teams or certain drivers, and it's, I guess, legal but ugly, and the phrase unintended consequences you said earlier
Yeah.
in the chat, is that what we saw on Sunday?
Yeah, it is, and the playoff format has done so many good things. Stages, that's been a new thing, and that's done a lot of good things. But there are some things that you can't control, and the manufacturers are kind of to blame for some of this. It's like Talladega and Daytona a little bit, where they get together. Well, they got together and did the opposite this time, rather than help. They were trying to hurt other people, and Christopher Bell, the Christopher Bell thing, him in the wall doing the Chastain, that has to be illegal and that has to be punished. I hate it for Christopher Bell. I really like him as a driver and thought he had a good chance to maybe win the whole thing. But yeah, the blocking thing at a Martinsville, that's tough. But the competitors can figure this out. If someone's blocking, there is something you can do about that. And my old favorite, the black number 3, would have taken care of that on his own. He wouldn't have waited for NASCAR to deal with it. But it is one of the unintended consequences, like you said.
Mack McCarthy joining us. You can check out Coach Mack coming up on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock. Campbell taking on Virginia, and that'll have a lot of eyeballs on it just because, as you said, Tony Bennett will not be there for the first time in a long time. Ron Sanchez. Have you talked to people, Coach? Is Bennett kind of still around? Is he going to do a thing where he just disappears, or will he go to games, be around the program? Do you know that?
I think he's around as access, being accessible for the staff, but I don't think he's going to be around publicly very much.
Right.
I'd be surprised. That would be a distraction, I think.
Well, Coach Mack, great to see you. And for our radio audience, you can go see Coach Mack on YouTube. Appreciate you joining us. We'll talk with you every Tuesday, whether you're here, there, or anywhere. So, man, I know you're busy now with college basketball tipping off. So enjoy it and have a great call on Wednesday, and we'll talk to you again soon.
I appreciate it. Hate I'm not in the studio, but next best thing, we got it done.
All right, Mac. See you, man.